Hey guys, I've been outside plowing snow and shoveling snow, so I just left my sweatshirt on because I've got a game by my good and dear friend Airgead. This is for you, amigo. This game he played against a guy called Muhammad 111, rated 1869. Airgead at the time he played this a couple years back was 1857. It is a 5-minute game. Airgead is playing the black. Some items caught my attention in this exquisite display of advanced thinking. And don't let it go to your head, pal. Oh, E4, D6. Small start. Nothing wrong with that at all. Knight F3. E5. That's why. Okay, so both players are establishing a center, partial occupation, partial control. That makes good sense. Hold on, let me grab my pen so I can mark these off as I play them. When I get talking, I lose my place where I'm at. Bishop C4. Okay, well, that's the Gioco Piano, the Italian game, is it not? Bishop E7, a development and a bump up toward castling. C3. In the Gioco, when the opponent plays the C3, it is because they are preparing for the D4, hitting the center. We all know that without question. Knight F6, there's no reason to become alarmed. The best thing to do is exactly what Airgead does. Bring out your piece, again on the king side, so preparing to castle. Beautiful move. D3, now he holds back at this point because he brought out the knight, right? So rather than hitting the center hard, he just protects this pawn. Yes, good move, good move. C6, preparing, just keeping a check on the squares at this time, getting a little bit more. It's a slow opening for Airgead, just a little bit more space. Bishop G5. Zing! He zings out there and says, "Good morning, you lovely horse. How about I take you?" And his other comrade in arms says, "Not on your life. If you decide to try to take me, I'll just take you back." So the development is coming along good, and his opponent does castle here. A good idea. As a general rule, you want to castle within the first, say, 10 moves. So they're both doing this very well. Before he castles, he develops his queen. He wants to see something. Let's take a look. Knight B to D2. They're both really bringing their development into this very nicely. And now Airgead says, bishop's got to go. The bishop does bump back. He has gained some good queenside space with that move. Very nice. And now he gains more queenside space. Very interesting pawn push here. Technically speaking, the center, he's got a center construct that is solid. So he's justified in going up the side with his pawns. White has a solid center. Nothing is going to go crashing through, breaking through. It's not like the center is locked. It's that there's not a lot of activity through the center, and so you can slow down a little bit, kind of add to make sure not only your pawns, but your pieces are put on the most favorable squares for you. This is what we see occurring. And now D4. Okay, so he's going to put some pressure in the center. Airgead has been coming up the side. The proper response is to come up into the center. So this is what we're seeing with the D4 bump. And once again, bishop B7. So all the pieces are developed. The queen is out of the way. Airgead has left his option of castling either side. He's checking at the white movement. White has not unnecessarily weakened anything around his king, so his king is secure. He wants to see how he's doing in the center. They're both doing very well in the center. The pieces appear to be evenly distributed from both sides, although it does look like there's a concentration more on the queen side, but he hasn't castled yet, so his king is in the center, well protected. His king is castled, well protected. Very interesting game so far. Fireworks are about to begin, however. He pushed the pawn. Now he's going to begin opening files. D takes E5. D takes E5. Hello, D file. The D file is now open for business. Bishop bumps to H4. Now we begin to see some maneuvers for some tactical play, and I thought this was very well done. Airgead goes ahead and castles on the king side. Very comfortable development. No harm, no danger. Bishop comes to G3. Putting the bishop across from the queen is a good strategy. The pawn itself is blocking, and those pawns are bumping into each other. So this is just one of the extra items that if it happens to you, you must keep it in your mind. Okay, I've got to be careful about this in case anything else happens with that pawn. My queen will be under attack. A potential interesting tactic here. This gives Airgead a chance to put his rook, guess where? The D file, of course. Since the D file is occupied by the queen, it's the rook across from the queen. That will have to change. The queen in the future could become in danger. So it appears at this point, Airgead is going to get the file. And depending on how you play this, the initiative could easily become black's, meaning he will call the shots simply because of that open file. That's one of the power points of having the open file. So we're going to keep our eye on that item as well. So because he has acquired such a powerful asset, the knight here comes to D4. And here we see a very interesting tactic. The pawn is pinned. You can't, that's why I wanted to emphasize that. Sometimes we kind of get a narrow view and we only look at one part of the board or another. I know I have to overcome that in my own games. This pawn can't take that, otherwise you lose your queen. That's why I made a big deal about it. You really have to keep your eye on the tactics now. So we're seeing it raise in complexity. Tricky move. Bishop comes to D6, unpinning the pin, as well as nicely supporting the central pawn. It's very interesting that the E5 square is owned by black. The bishop, the knight, the queen. So while it might be attacked, it's never going to be taken. Yeah. Interesting to see this. So knight F5. Now that is the ultimate goal of the white knight. That was kind of a fun little tactic to see if he would fall for it. He didn't, but he's got the outpost with this wonderful E4 backing him up. Now that hits into black's territory. You do have a bishop over here, not going to be as effective until there's a changing of some pieces, some exchanging of some pieces, I should say. The queen is pointing that way, though. The squares are covered at this point, but just to be aware, the queen and the bishop's over there, getting pieces closer to the king. That's the theme of the king side attack. So it doesn't appear that Airgead's queenside has done a whole lot just for the moment, because he has been acquiring a most valuable asset here. So that's not a defect, it's just an observation. And knight will come to c5. No sooner than I make the observation than Airgead completely refutes me and begins operations on the queen side. Nice tag on the bishop. Nice tag on the d3. A very important square because it's such a weak square. Did you notice that? The pawn is passed. The pawn can't be here holding that square. The pawn has bumped up. The pawn can't be here holding that square. That would be a sensational square to put a knight safely. It appears to me like Airgead Sharp Eye has seen this. We shall see how he plays. So the other knight is not as effective as White wants him to be. So he does bring him up to f3, just bumping on the e5. He's not going to be able to take the e5 safely. Not yet, no. But the battle appears to be beginning to revolve around that e5 central square with a dangerous d3 outpost potential. The other thing we want to keep a notice of is this rook has yet to move. Technically speaking, the queen has yet to move, but she is doing a magnificent job keeping her eye on that bishop, right? It's not like she's powerless. She's not as powerful on the diagonal, but that knight's not stuck there, so she could roar to life. And so we want to be careful. Don't get the lady too mad, otherwise she'll come howling, right? So we just want to keep our eye on the tactics. This rook hasn't moved since it's been castled just yet. This bishop is on a splendiferous diagonal, pinning the f pawn to the king. So just all items that we want to keep track of. And here is why. Because now he moved up. Now from here, he can take the d4 pawn. Did you notice something odd? Let's take this back. I noticed something odd. This is why Airgead is such a better player than I am. He does have a chance to get rid of that truly, in the Gioco Piano, the light squared bishop is a prize. If you can get the light squared bishop, it's like putting a trophy on your wall. That's a good thing. That is not an easy decision to make. I'm just telling you. I would have taken the bishop with no second thought. That's why I love this game, because so many of my good friends in the chess club help me expand my vision into, hopefully, if I can ever get it, into a higher thinking. Observe what this is. It is a central pawn, and also observe how the battle appears to be coming against the e5 pawn, okay? So by eliminating the last central pawn, you open the position. You also hit his bishop, the dark squared bishop, but you open the position in the center. And where did he put his rook? In the center. And you say, dude, can't you look though? This is on the E file. It doesn't matter. Open the center, because your pieces will acquire greater activity. It also takes the outpost of that knight away. And so this is an exquisite move. I just wanted to let you know. So many of us are material minded, and I do not say that as a negative. That's not a negative. You have to be in this game, truly. It is better to acquire a positional advantage which is what I believe we have seen here with Airgead's move, rather than the material advantage. Another item is, once the pawn retakes, if takes, once there's a pawn there and the knight is gone, you acquired the bishop, which is a trophy. But look at the position of the black knight now, though. Look at how it just paralyzes the white position. This is what I mean when I say a positional advantage could be every bit as excellent as a material advantage. And technically, that wouldn't have been a material advantage. Yes, bishops are somewhat better than knights. But that exchange wouldn't have been as favorable as having him here. Okay, so I've emphasized that, but I'm emphasizing that with the reason because that was an eye opener for me. I did not expect that. What is he thinking? That's got to be what he was thinking. He's going for the positional, which is a I don't know how to put this. Maybe I could say it's a higher order of thinking in chess. If I put it that way, it helps me pay attention to it more when I come across that choice in a game. Okay. And it's not like that was a bad bishop. I mean, look, he still has to deal with that. But look at the compensation he's got. He also got rid of the pawn that he can push this pawn now, and all of a sudden, this battery comes completely to life. So in the future, the positional advantage will open up for a stronger future for black than if he would have went just for the material exchange. I'll put it that way. Whew. Long-winded discourse on, man, look at that spectacular move. But it was a question. It was a quizzical move for me. This was one of the turning moments in the game for me because I feel I genuinely learned something from this. So thank you, Airgead, for playing this game. This is wonderful. Now, the white will come to E2. Once again, wise to get off the diagonal, of course, because you're going to have a discovery on the queen with the rook if you're not careful, right? But also an increased activity point. So that's a good spot. Now this black knight really shows his stuff. He struts over here and takes the bishop, which is one of the key items that Airgead saw ahead of that I didn't, because I was thinking so materialistically, why not just get rid of that incredible bishop? That's bragging rights. But now he's gotten rid of the pawn, the central pawn. This isn't just any pawn. That was a central pawn. And he also now gets rid of the bishop that's going to challenge this battery. So very good forward thinking on Airgead's part, as well as, now the F will retake, the beginning of creating weaknesses around the castle king. Fun stuff to see this. F takes, I got to mark that off. And now bishop will c8. Okay, so the bad bishop. This is the bad bishop. They're both bad bishops. So when you see in your position, his knight and bishop are doing okay, that pawn's going to go forward now, though. See, the queen is not going to stop that pawn from advancing. The knight's got it covered, right? Once that pawn advances, this just explodes in pure raw power, right? So the pawn's coming forward, and then all of a sudden, the tidal wave of power comes at you. Your weakest piece is probably this bishop. So what you do with your weakest piece is exactly what he does. Relocate it. Of course. Hit the knight. You acquire a target that used to have the outpost. Now this isn't an exchange. It's just a blunt win if he gets that knight. But if the knight has to move, again, the entire diagonal toward the king side with this power battery diagonal toward the king side with this rook. Watch out. There's going to be some fireworks coming up right now. White needs to pay attention is what white has to do. So bumping back now, and that helps solidify the white king side somewhat. That's not bad. I get it. Yeah, the knight on the rim, but he doesn't have to leave it there. But for right now, that really does. That king is certainly not open. The king is certainly not threatened. I mean, how do you attack that, man? That's a good setup. So this is kind of interesting. Let's see what happens. Well, he relocated the bishop. The rook is doing really excellent. The time will come to push that pawn, not only hitting the knight, but opening up the queen bishop battery. The other rook could come out, or else you can begin pushing the f pawn once you get that knight into it. So we appear to me to be at the beginning end of a really amazing combinational attack, right? But you relocated the bishop. Now he uses it. Again, good chess. It's not a critique. Bishop g4. Now, I just said he brought the knight here, which really helps solidify the position. And it does. Airgead says, okay, it does, but I'm still able to attack the position. Okay, let's see what comes of this. Let's just check this out. So the queen, once again, baby steps. It was on the D, over to E2, now up to E3, gently bringing in more power, right? More of a defensive power. C5. Now here again, Airgead kind of opened my eyes. He's playing well in the center. He's playing well on the king side. And now he's playing well on the queen side. Look, he's working the entire board. There's a lesson. That's really cool to see. I want to try to imitate this in my games. H3. Yep, you got to make a decision. And I agree with that move. You can't just let a guy in your territory sit there. It's not an overwhelming pressure, but it is a pressure. So let's make up your mind. Get out of my home, right? So now the question is, what is a good square for that bishop to go to? Because there is no other diagonal. You can probably exchange with the knight, but you're not going to break it up with hoping the pawn's going to cut. No, he'll exchange with the knight, and then he will still have an exquisite solid king side, right? As a general rule, if you're the attacker, you want to keep more pieces on the board. If you're a defender, you want to exchange them. But if, oh, there's my heater. Hold on. I've got to shut this off. I forgot to. I don't want that interrupting me. Okay, so if you are a defender, you do want to exchange the pieces, but hopefully not in a way that damages your position. Okay, so we've got a couple of choices. This one, not really. That's too far back. That would be okay. You could exchange that incredible bishop here in case white gets his pieces coming up, right? Here doesn't do you any good at all. The knight will simply take you. So essentially, this square, anything past here is just way too passive unless you come up here and bump the pawn. And then you have to come all the way back, all the way back. I mean, you're talking 1, 2, 3 moves. So what do you do with this bishop is the real question. You push c4. You counterattack. Ignore the threat. I want you to keep your eye on this. This is a really instructive game from here on out. This is hot stuff. So bishop c2. Now, it's true he loses the influence of the pin of the f pawn at this point, but don't kid yourself, you guys. This diagonal is an exquisite diagonal hitting the h7. It is guarded by the knight, of course, but that diagonal is so helpful in both defense and attack. So it's not like the bishop has been misplaced. It's just a different type of an influence. Bishop c5. He's ignoring the threat to his bishop. I'm going to emphasize that because this is the higher type of chess thinking. This is so important. And I know, I get it. It is so difficult to do because that bishop is a very necessary bishop in this attack. That is an important piece. Why are you ignoring it? Aren't you afraid of losing it? Of course he is. Observe, Airgead is counterattacking. This is a serious threat to a very good piece. He is counterattacking with a stronger threat against a stronger piece. That's pinned to the king. Uh-oh. That's not good. So if you see a good move, save your bishop, pop him here. Yeah, that's good. Look for a better move, bishop to here. That's sensational. This is the lesson for this game. I love this. This is so cool. Now, white doesn't wig out yet. Knight to d4. One, he centralizes the knight again. Look at the difference, though. The knight is no longer on an outpost, and d4 is owned by the pawn and the bishop. Yikes! So Airgead gets a piece, and once again attacking the queen. And once again ignoring the threat to a very important piece. Make no mistake about that. This is wonderful. So queen comes to f4. Again, now the queen acquires a greater functionality and power. She's going to keep her eye. This squirt is the one that's threatened. Of course, you're not going to take the bishop with the queen because of the knight. But now she can keep her eye on the bishop and the knight. But more importantly, shall we do a queen swap? Now, you're an attacker. In an attack, you do want to have your queen. So queen swaps aren't advisable. What would you do in this position? This is a really important key moment, and Airgead finds the way with his queen. He pushes the pawn, discovered check to the king. Nice. Once again, observe something so spectacular in the higher order of thinking in chess that Airgead is giving us a splendiferous lesson on. You have a piece being attacked, a powerful piece, a very important piece in the attack. You have another piece that is literally unguarded being attacked. And he ignores it. And he goes for the discovered check. Because you notice what Airgead is doing? He is not giving white the chance to play the kind of game he wants. Who doesn't want to take that bishop? Right? Who wouldn't want to take the queen? That is literally for free. right? And yet notice Airgead's threats are more forcing, and white must react to Airgead and observe the consequences. Let me move the king just so that you don't, yell at me. Get the game going. Observe the consequences of every time he makes a stronger move. Look how close this pawn is, this passed pawn is to making a queen. Notice how fantastically posted, unopposed, this bishop is, zipping right down into the king's living room. Unwanted, I might. Notice the queen is hitting the queen, but now it's black's move. Time to get rid of the queens because his position is so good. Nope. Now you proceed to take D2, or C2, I mean. Take the bishop with your pawn. Now that's the most deadly, important piece on the board. Have you noticed this pawn's journey has happened ever since he's had 1, 2 pieces threatened for the last 3 moves? Guess what's been happening? The pawn has been moving. And you're going, does he not care about his pieces? Of course he does. He still has them, doesn't he? We're in school now. Let the teacher teach us. This is spectacular higher level thinking chess. I love this. Don't let that go to your head, Airgead. But buddy, I'm thrilled to honor this game of yours. There is no question about it. Well, okay, now, he did take the bishop. Now this gives white a move to make. And of course, look, the queen is free. That's not an exchange. That's a loss of your most powerful warrior on the battlefield. What are you going to do? You're going to continue improving your position. And getting your bishop out of danger. E3. You go, okay, but there's nobody protecting that bishop. What a crazy place to put the bishop. And yet it's the perfect square, you guys. It is absolutely centralized. It is in the middle. Look, this is Moses parting the White Sea, man. Right in the middle of the whole white camp. And he's covering the queening square. Notice the incredible cooperation. That's why this is an inferior move. Now, granted, it acquires a target. Look, you just lost your queen. Lady, you're going to pay. You're going to pay. You know, this theme goes in their minds. Well, now I really have to attack that queen with everything I've got because I've got to get her off the board. Otherwise, I'm going to lose this game. Airgead doesn't go through any of that whatsoever. None of that's even in his mind. He's going, oh, bore me to tears. Instead, I've got something so much better. Spectacular game. And it was a choice between keeping this bishop or losing this bishop. Finally, now I want to count this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It took 6 moves before white had enough air time, a chance to take that bishop. That's how powerful black has been playing, because his moves have been so much stronger. And look at the board position. The queen is almost entirely out of the battle. That's the pipsqueak you got to watch. The good news for white is he really does have 2 rooks. Now, this rook has not been playing in the game. Airgead has been using all of his pieces, so that is one reason why he has an advantage. Will white learn from his mistake of leaving that rook home? It doesn't matter. Here comes Airgead. Knight takes g4. Observe each and every piece is getting closer to the king. You can checkmate the king as you get your pieces closer. Okay? Observe that. Watch. Rook's got the partial file, so he takes the pawn. Too little, too late, though. Using that magnificent D file. Check. And now, finally, white has a chance to use his rook for the nefarious helping out of black to gain a queen. That was the only thing that rook ended up doing, is giving black his queen back. Check. Rook f1 and mate. That's chess. Fun game. Thanks, Airgead. My pleasure to share one of your really, truly magnificent. And this was just a 5-minute game, man. I mean, I can't think that way, that good, if I had an hour per move. So I'm in awe of my friends. The day is coming where I'll get that good, but not right at the moment. But in the meantime, we can enjoy chess like this. This is spectacular stuff. Watch this video several times to see how the higher order of chess consciousness functioned in this game. I have a hard time finding, I mean, even Alec doesn't have as good of an illustration in many of his games. Fischer might, but I'd have to look hard to find them, than what Airgead showed us. Ignore your opponent's threats and use stronger moves of your own. That's key to success. So, hey, thanks for watching my videos, you guys. Have a great day. Some of you I will see tonight on my live. Others who aren't interested in my Mormonism live stuff, we have a spectacular live on the Bible, if you're interested. Did Moses plagiarize Plato's homework? We're talking about the Greek influence on the Hebrew Old Testament. So if that kind of thing interests you, great. If it doesn't, no worries. We've got a lot more chess to give to you. We will be back shortly. You guys have a great day. Thanks for watching.